Hey guys, Andrew here. I hope you're having an awesome week so far. I hope it is stress-free and full of joy. So this week's Wednesday word of the week comes out of the book of Hebrews. Now, last week, Pastor Tim kind of unpacked out of the book of James what it looks like to avoid self-indulgence and how we grow closer to God when we try to avoid having things in excess and abundance, and what it looks like to live a more humble and modest life. And this week, he's going to still kind of piggyback off of that, but this week will be in the book of Hebrews, and it's going to be out of chapter 4. And there are two major notions that I want you guys to meditate on this week that come out of this passage. The first one is looking at the idea of a Sabbath and what that looks like to really take a day of rest, a full day of rest. And in Hebrews, the author is talking about this rest or this Sabbath, and he says in verse 11, "Let us therefore strive to enter that rest, so that no one may fall by the same sort of disobedience." Now, when we look at this, we start to see that not taking a Sabbath day and not taking a day of rest is not only unwise, it's not only unhealthy, it's disobedient to God. God cared so much about his people taking a day of rest that he made it one of the 10 commandments. God himself took a day of rest when he was creating the entire universe. So it's a critical, crucial thing for us to take a day of rest weekly and to take a load off and to recharge our batteries to really enter into a time of rest with God and to reflect and to remember why we're working. I had a mentor growing up, and he lives by this motto: work hard, rest hard. And what he meant by that was to rest hard so that you can work hard. And when he uses the analogy of the human heart. So when you look at a heart, and a heartbeat in itself is a moment of stress, and then it's a moment of rest. And then it's a quick moment of stress, and then it's a moment of rest. And the heart has to have that moment of rest, because if all it does is stress the entire time, it will overwork itself and it will eventually die. And the same goes for us when we talk about taking a day of rest. We have to rest after our work so that we can remember why we're working and so that it can benefit our work. So Pastor Tim is going to dive into that a little bit when it comes to how to take a day of rest with God. The second notion that we talk about in chapter 4 is how to not conform to the patterns of this world and how to stand firm in Christ. When I was a little kid growing up, I dealt with a lot of peer pressure, and I'm sure many of you struggled with that as well growing up. It's a common thing in adolescent years and even in childhood, but I always wanted to be the cool one. I always wanted to be normal to my friends. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to blend in with the rest of my community. And as we get older, I think we get tricked into thinking that that sort of pressure kind of dies when you get out of childhood. And we see in the Bible and in life itself that those pressures just kind of take on a different form, but they're still very much there. Whether that's the pressure of having an adequate job, of having a spouse, having a family, excelling at what you do, being looked at with respect in the eyes of those around you, not wanting to say something that might rustle some feathers, that might rock the boat. We see it all throughout society that these pressures still exist. And we read in Hebrews that to live a life that is pleasing to God is actually quite the opposite of living with the patterns of this world and conforming. To live a life that is dedicated to pleasing the creator of this universe, that's quite a subversive and opposite way to live. And so Pastor Tim's going to unpack that as well, of what that really looks like and how we can be encouraged to stay strong in that way of living so that we don't conform to the patterns of this world. So just a couple of things to keep your minds working this week and meditate on those two notions. And I hope to see you on Sunday. Have a good day, guys.